Broad Street and Beyond podcast is back for another week. JT along with Chase, and we're bringing in the pride, Sparrows Point, Maryland's number one son, Noah White, is going to join us this week. So he's joined us from where he's at. Chase is in a super secret, dark, some kind of dark cave, super secret, top secret location. He refuses to tell us where he is, but he assures us that he's safe and that he's sound and that he's ready to go for this week's podcast. Fellas, how you doing? Good to hear.
Camp David is where I'm at.
Camp
David. I can't tell you. I'm drinking a beer. I can't show you that information right now.
Okay, it's all classified. I understand. I don't want to put you in danger. We don't want to blow your cover. You know.
Right.
So let's get things rolling this week. It's good to hear from you guys. Good to see both of you. And we brought Noah in this week because Noah is pretty plugged in here to the local high school football scene. He was involved in a majority of our broadcasts on 99.7 Wilbur Radio, and he's gotten a good look at the local high school football teams this year as we wind up the regular season and head into the postseason. So, Noah, good to have you aboard. Appreciate you hopping on with us here for a little bit. And we just finished up the season here, and we've got 3 teams heading into the playoffs, but we thought we'd bring you on and have you give us your observations of what you saw. You talked to some of these athletes early on in the season, and you saw them throughout the year. So give us some of your takeaways from the 2025 regular season for Lebanon County High School football.
Yeah, first of all, happy to be on with you guys. Feel like it's a long time coming. Got to see the inception of this podcast, so it's kind of cool full circle to be able to finally get on here and get my crack at being on Broad Street and beyond. So yeah, like you said, John, the local high school scene, we had a lot of good teams in Lebanon County. We've historically had some teams that haven't done as well, but we had some teams really exceed expectations this year, and like you said, 3 playoff teams in Lebanon County. That feels really good, and there are some glaring things within the county this year that I noticed doing, like you said, preseason coverage with our media day, and then obviously calling games on 99.7 Wilbur Radio. So I guess my first takeaway from this season is that young teams can be successful. You don't always see that at the high school level. Annville Cleona is a great example of that. They're a team that's exceeded expectations. They finished 8-2 on the season. While they graduate star players like Hudson Sellers and John Moran this season, they still have a fantastic running back duo that they'll be able to hold on to in Devin Englehart and Yama Navarro next season. And they've already beaten and taken good teams to the wire. Just last week, they took Berks Catholic to overtime. They blocked a field goal to go into overtime, and unfortunately lost it in OT. But we just saw how good this young team is. They don't have a lot of experience, but they have a great head coach in Gingrich, and so far they've been phenomenal. They got a first-round bye, and they'll get to play the winner. It'll likely be Trinity, but you never know what could happen with Schuylkill Valley. Isaiah Zimmerman, the running back out of Cedar Crest, he is legit. He's only in his junior season, and he's already tallied his second straight 1,000-yard rushing season. And he's pretty much like, if you're active on X or anybody that knows and gives Isaiah Zimmerman a follow, he is pretty much at a college visit every Saturday. So he'll finish up his football game on Friday night and then travel. I think one of the latest ones was James Madison. So he's highly sought after with some of these lower level Division I programs, some of these FCS programs. And he makes all the world of difference. He was out a couple of games with an ankle sprain, but now he's back and kind of got his first game underneath of him in the Cedar Bowl last week to kind of ramp things up. He only had to put in about 3 quarters of work to show that, yeah, he's back and he's ready. So that was the second point I noticed this season. And then thirdly, This one might hit a little too close to home, Chase. I'm sorry, but
I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going with this.
Lebanon football. It's been a little bit since they've had some success, but they could very well go a decade without a win. Right now, they're 0-52 in the last 5 seasons. The state record in Pennsylvania is 56 consecutive losses, and that comes with the caveat it was a team out in the Philadelphia area. They actually lost 58 straight games on the field, but they had a team that they were supposed to play on a Saturday morning with some scheduling conflicts, and they actually got a win gifted to them by a forfeit. So technically, the streak ends at 56, but they lost 58 games on the field. I think Lebanon blows this thing out of the water. It's just really hard when you don't have kids signing up wanting to play football, and you can only roster about 30 kids. By the time, we watched them play in the Cedar Bowl last week, they were down to 18 active kids before the start of the game, and there were some injuries and stuff, and these kids were having to run back out there and kind of play with, any sort of cramping or, these injuries that aren't going to knock you out for the year, but stuff that kids typically wouldn't come back in the game for. With it being out of hand, they had to kind of play.
I think that's one of the points that maybe gets lost when you talk about Lebanon High. You hear about the number of kids that come out, and it's somewhere like 30, maybe upwards of close to maybe 35. That's happened already past couple of years, and again, that number is not ideal for a Class 6A school, but it's really where they're at mid-season or what they finish at. So they might, they had 30 kids, but as you said, they had 18, I think, dressed and ready for action in the Cedar Bowl, and that's just that's just not a recipe for success. So it's really that, first and foremost, that's the biggest issue I think that they're going to have to tackle, is getting those numbers up and getting them to stay consistent through a whole season. And then once that happens, then maybe they can start putting some building blocks together to when it comes to fundamentals, maybe building some depth and eventually be able to snap this losing streak, I would think.
You can't say, they had a new coach this year too, Noah, right? So, you can't really blame it on the coaching this year at all. So just numbers-wise, Lebanon just didn't have it this year.
Yeah, we'll see. Last year they had a first-year head coach as well that actually brought Coach Silv, the now head coach, onto staff with him. This coach ended up jumping ship right before the season and taking a college offer to be an offensive coordinator. The school that he went to is escaping my mind right now, but they've just they haven't had the best luck of being able to keep coaches around. But I do think that if anybody's going to be able to get this team to a win, I think it's going to be Coach Silv. When we had the opportunity to talk to him in the preseason and even during the season when we reached out to him for stuff, he's a phenomenal human being. He's a leader of men. I really think that if anybody could right this ship, it's him. But it'll just be how long is he willing to stick around with what the school and what the program's able to provide him, not only talent-wise but roster-wise.
Yeah, I think definitely it's going to take someone who's wants to be in it for the long haul and knows that there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road before things get better. And like you said, I think that's been an issue with trying to get some consistency in someone that can lead the program for the long term. So we'll see what happens. What else jumped out at you this season?
My last 2 points actually jumped out at me in the last game that I called in the regular season. That's obviously the historic rivalry between Elko and Northern Lebanon. So number 4 point is Elko's Brinley Donmoyer. He's an absolute magician, and fortunately we get another year of him. You might have seen it on Facebook with Jacob Hitz, one of our broadcasters, but him and I got the chance to call that game. This kid was in the backfield dead to rights, 4 defenders around him. He's trying to scramble. He gets a guy around his ankles. He actually loses the football. It pops right back up to him. He's able to spring it free and run for a 64-yard touchdown. And that, he had there was a play called back from a holding that was a 48-yard rushing touchdown. What does he do the next play? He runs it in for 58 yards for a score. So this kid is absolute magic. They don't really let him rip it a whole lot in the passing game. He's a running quarterback. When he does throw it, it seems like guys are kind of letting it get to their chest and they're not catching the football. So his completion percentage is a bit misleading. But But Brinley Donmoyer, he's going to run the football, and the defense knows it's coming, and most of the time they can't stop it, which has been really fun to see, and it just depends on if that defense can hold up on the other end.
Well, Elko is certainly no stranger to guys that can run the ball. They've had a lot of success over the past couple of years under Bob Miller. You think back to all the Williams brothers that have been able to put up huge rushing numbers at Elko. So it's good to see that's continued to be a staple. Excuse me. So yeah, it looks like they're playing pretty good football here at the end of the regular season. I think the biggest pitfall that they faced the last couple of years is being in Section 4. It's kind of been a murderer's row there with being in the same section as Twin Valley and Wyomissing and even Lampeter Strasburg, who wasn't quite as good as they've been, but they're still nothing to sneeze at. So you've got those three teams that you're going to play every year, and so it makes it tough sledding for Elko there in Section 4.
Yeah, extremely tough for them with, like you said, like these top three teams of the LL are all in the same section, and unfortunately, Elko, that's going to be what it is. They're 5-5 this regular season. You can guess where three of those losses came from, and I watched an ugly game at the beginning of the season between them and Twin Valley where there was no hope, but they look like a completely different team when they're playing a team of more of a same roster makeup,
right?
A similar opponent in Northern Lebanon, and that'll bring me to my last point here. Northern Lebanon, they have a lot of young talent, but the real question is going to be, they won their first game at Pine Grove this season, 35-8. They were electric. Brady Ryan had 13 touches for 117 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, they seem to be riding high, and that was kind of, you could tell when we were doing that media scrum with them in the preseason that they really wanted to beat Pine Grove, and then after that they fell off. They had like 2 or 3 like close losses, and then you just saw the wheels completely fall off. They ended 1-9, and obviously lost big to Elko. They battled really hard. The score might be a little misleading, but they had them to a point where they could have got it within a touchdown, and it just didn't happen. They threw a pick in the end zone. Now they'll lose senior quarterback Brian Mitzel, but they have another one, more of a traditional pocket presence QB in Blake Burdick in the wings, and they have a young roster around him. You think Brady Ryan, he's got another season. Most of this season was injury riddled for him, but he's electric when he can play. They have some young wide receivers. Johnny Hilton, who made some phenomenal plays late in the game. He mossed a guy, and then on the next possession, he caught a touchdown where people seemingly thought his knee was down, but it actually landed on a defender, and he was able to spring free and take it in for a score late. But the real question is going to be who's leading this team next year, as Coach Jason Rice informed the athletic program that he's going to be stepping down as head coach. So we wish Coach Rice all the best, but if he's not manning the ship, I just really don't know. He really instilled discipline in these kids.
Yeah, I think the program really took some steps in the right direction under him, especially last year. I think I want to say they were 4-6 last year. This year it didn't go so well, but like you said, they had some close losses. I know we broadcasted the game against Oxford. That was a 3-point game. They lost a close one to DeLone Catholic, and again they held their own last week against Elko in the regular season finale. But right, it's a shame that because Jason Rice I thought was doing a lot of good things there at Northern Lebanon. So, but obviously he and his wife are expecting their first child, and he decided that he wanted to take some time away, and we'll see what happens. So now we're looking ahead here, Noah, to the postseason. We've got, as we said, we've got Cedar Crest in Class 6A. Taking on Cedar Cliff tomorrow night at West Shore Stadium. You and Mike Givler will be on the call. You can hear that game on 99.7 Wilbur Radio and WilburRadio.com, and on the Wilbur Radio app beginning at 6:45. So they're in action at Cedar Cliff. Elko is at Kennerdale in Class 4A, and of course Anvil Cleona, who we mentioned earlier, finishing second in Class 3A. They get the first round bye, and they'll host the semifinal coming up next week. So what are your thoughts here on the three that made the postseason? and maybe particularly starting with Cedar Crest, as you'll get to see them up close and personal tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think Cedar Crest is, like I was saying to Chase earlier, I think they could be potentially the best team out of Lebanon County, even though the record doesn't necessarily show it. They dealt with a lot of injuries this year, particularly to their offensive line, and then they were a couple games without Isaiah Zimmerman. And I think they're up to the task. Head coach Nick Lambros, he's got a really strong group there. They have a seemingly good young quarterback in Steven Reyes. You know, they kind of experimented with two quarterbacks earlier on in the season that led to some losses, and now they've got their guy, and it seems like he really has a command of the offense. So they're coming into this one. It's a battle of the Cedar moniker in the name, so Cedar Crest versus Cedar Cliff, and they both sit at 5-5. And yeah, both have steamrolled the opponents that they should beat handily, and they've lost some closer ones to more superior opponents. So I think it really is just it's one of those coin flip games, and it'll depend on what Cedar Crest we see tomorrow night. They obviously have two guys over 100 tackles, which is something to note on the defensive end. Garrett Starry and Landon Klein. I believe that's consecutive seasons for Landon Klein with 100-plus tackles. I don't know necessarily about Garrett Starry, but he's getting in with some sacks, some TFLs, and then he actually has 2 defensive touchdowns as well on a fumble 6 and a pick 6.
Mike Gibler and I were talking off the air. We were trying to figure out if Cedar Crest and Cedar Cliff have ever played each other before, and we couldn't think of a time. Nick Lambros, who the head coach at Cedar Crest, who played at Cedar Crest, he couldn't remember. I do remember a time back in, I think it was 1997, Cedar Crest played a playoff game at West Shore Stadium, which is where you and Mike will be tomorrow night. But I think this could very well be the first ever meeting between Cedar Crest and Cedar Cliff. Now, again, we don't have archives that go way, way back, so there's a chance that they could have met a long, long time ago, well before not only your time, but well before Chase and mine's time. And, you know, we're a lot older than you, so our frame of reference goes back a little bit. So let me put you on the spot just a little bit, yeah. So let me put you on the spot here. We know we'll have one team playing next week in Anvil, Cleona. Noah, what do you think? Will we have a team from the county joining them next week?
Yeah, I think we will. And like I said, I think this Cedar Crest game is a coin flip. Maybe it's the Cedar Bowl Part 2. We can start calling it if this becomes maybe more of a regular occurrence in the playoffs. But I think Elko had a great push at the end of the season, but they're coming in and they got to face this Kennerdale team that's 6-4, so they're not much better than them record-wise. But it will be interesting to see. I think Kennerdale, when they win pretty handily. And I really have some questions about that Elko defense and how it'll hold up. So not completely sure that it'll be Elko if we do have two teams next week, which I think we will. It's going to be Cedar Crest and Anvil Cleona.
So Cedar Crest would have if either team advances, they're going to have a tough road ahead of them. If Cedar Crest would get by Cedar Cliff, they would be headed to top seed Central York in the quarterfinals. And Elko, I believe, would head to, that's an 8-9 matchup as well, I believe. So I think they would be heading to, oh boy, dare I say, would it be top seed Twin Valley in Class 4A?
Yeah, and I think Elko might want to lick their wounds and just play a tough game, because whoever wins this game between Elko and Kennerdale pretty much knows that, hey, bring a suitcase, because it's you're going to be packing up pretty quickly the next week against Twin Valley. But anything can happen on a Friday night, so I've heard. This
is true, and tomorrow night is Halloween night, so you be prepared for something spooky at West Shore Stadium.
Maybe some tricks and some treats.
So, again, you can hear Noah and Mike Gibler on the call tomorrow night, 99.7 Wilbur Radio, wilburradio.com, and on the Wilbur Radio app, pregame 6:45, kickoff 7 o'clock, Cedar Crest and Cedar Cliff. So, switching over to the NFL, and before, I know you got to get out of here fairly soon here, Noah, but we want to talk a little bit of NFL, and Chase and I always like to chat about the Eagles, the Steelers, and the Ravens, since they're the 3 teams that are closest to us geographically. And, of course, it's not hard to see where your heart lies. You've got the hat, you've got the Lamar Jackson jersey. It's game night for the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens, of course, have had a bit of some tough sledding here with Lamar Jackson missing the past several games with the hamstring issue. They were really struggling, and then last week they unveil that Snoop Huntley, and he helps them to a 30-16 win over the Chicago Bears. Tonight, as we record this, the Ravens are getting ready to take on the Miami Dolphins, a game that they have to have based on the start they got. Your thoughts here as a Ravens fan, how things have gone? You actually, I think you were at a game earlier this year, am I right?
Yeah, I was at the Houston Texans game. Bought the tickets early in the season, going out, thought I'd have a great time with my dad, a couple other guys, and Lamar Jackson gets hurt in that Kansas City Chiefs game, and my world falls apart. Right? No, the sky may seem like it was falling, but there's more important things in football, and it all changes now. I think they had to have that win against the Bears. Coming out of the bye with only one win, it's do or die, and they were able to get that win, and now they have their quarterback back. Miami, they're in just as much of a desperate position as the Ravens, so you almost have to. I think the Ravens have a superior roster than the Miami Dolphins, but they've also had a superior roster than most of the opponents that they've played this season. It's just been a matter of, is everybody healthy? What's the scheme looking like? And they've really had some things bounce the wrong way for them this year. But the gauntlet of their schedule's over. They're looking on to Miami. And like you said, they have to have this game tonight. If they don't have this game tonight, I'll declare season over, unfortunately.
Ooh,
but
season over already, man.
Listen, we're there. The AFC North is not what it used to be, especially with Joe Burrow going down in Cincinnati. The Steelers don't look super strong, but to fall to 2-6. It looks really tough, and if you can't beat a team like the Dolphins, they're dealing with the same kind of stuff. Their coach is on the hot seat. Tua Tagovailoa, I don't think he's a great quarterback, but the Ravens have only put up one solid defensive game this season. So if you can't beat a team like this, then you can't really slate any wins later on in the season.
So what do you see out of the game tonight there, Noah, for Lamar Jackson? You think he comes back full speed ahead and healthy tonight in this game?
I think he'll definitely be healthy. It'll be a question of, a lot of people are speculating that his he hasn't had the same speed since a run that he had in Buffalo late in the game, and the Jets haven't been the same. And then obviously, he gets that hamstring injury in week 4 officially, but nobody knows when it actually got hurt. So I think he's been dealing with this for quite some time. I think that's why you saw him sit out of Sunday's game with this quick turnaround in Miami. But he's a Florida boy. He's had some great performances in Miami. He's had, at least I can think of 2 times where he's put up 50-plus points with 5 passing touchdowns against the Miami Dolphins. So I think it'll be a boat race, to be completely honest with you. But I think Lamar looks healthy. I don't think there's as many designed runs. I think they're going to rely a lot on Derrick Henry to run the ball and Keaton Mitchell. And they're going to kind of let Lamar pick them apart with the play-action pass. I don't see too many designed runs for Lamar tonight.
As a fantasy player who has Derrick Henry on his roster, that is news to my ears. So I'm looking forward to that. What's that? Feed him. Feed King Derrick Henry, please.
Hey, did he just pass Walter Payton 5th all-time in touchdowns with that
Keep
run
going.
last week?
Keep going. Never enough.
Against the Bears, he passed Sweetness. So yeah,
yes,
he's sitting at 113 rushing touchdowns. That's 7 behind Adrian Peterson for 4th all-time. So it's definitely feasible to happen this season, but I think that the Ravens are really going to have to rely on him tonight in Miami.
Yeah, it's hard. When you think about how much Baltimore has struggled, obviously because of Lamar being out of the lineup, and also the injuries that they've had on defense. But they get this game tonight, and early in a couple earlier podcasts, I think Chase and I were talking about the Steelers, where it looked like maybe by default based on how everything was going south for the Ravens and the Bengals and the Browns, that maybe by default they were going to win the division. But now all of a sudden, the Steelers lost to the Bengals, and they lost that game last Sunday to Green Bay, and now they got the Colts this coming Sunday. I guess the Ravens can they might have to squint a little bit, but I think they could see themselves still into the top of the thick of the division race. But I guess, like you said, if they lose tonight, eventually you're going to start to run out of runway here.
Yeah, and with the trade deadline being next week, November 4th, this game's really going to determine, okay, are we going to blow this up at all, or are we going to try to get another piece to be aggressive? Since week 2, the Ravens have been without their top run defender and sack leader, Justin Madubuike, who went out with a neck injury. It's not looking great. He's already on the IR, and he's having season-ending neck surgery here soon after getting a couple more opinions. They could really use a piece, but if they don't win tonight, there's no sense in trading for something like that. Instead, you're going to be a seller. Maybe give away DeAndre Hopkins or Jair Alexander, some of these guys that only have a 1-year deal. Make them useful and get a pick out of them when you're trying to kind of blow up and rebuild. Have a mini rebuild. I don't think the Ravens are ever going to completely tear it down until number 8 leaves, but I think it's something to consider after tonight.
So when I see it tomorrow in the office, am I going to see happy Noah or sad Noah? Are they going to win tonight?
Yeah, you're going to see happy Noah. I think going into this week, I would describe it as nervously or anxiously optimistic.
I like it.
I still like this team. I know what they're capable of because I've seen it before and I've watched it for many years. This team is never down and out with number 8 under center, but you got to tread with caution because they're a sports team. They can break my heart at any point if they want to. So I do think that they're going to win tonight. Lamar has a great track record of playing the Dolphins. The offense looks good, and I really do think that the defense got some sort of spark that they needed. Maybe after Lamar took all the fun and games out of the locker room. That was what Marlon Humphrey needed to kind of get back on track, and Roquan Smith's healthy. Kyle Hamilton is looking super effective towards that line of scrimmage. So,
hey, as Chase and I are Eagles fans, we know all about being nervously and anxiously optimistic. Am I right? Am I right, Chase?
I thought you meant heartbreak.
No, we're always in a state of angst, no matter how good, no matter how well things are going. Well, listen, Noah, it was great having you on the podcast this week. We will definitely do this again. This will not be your last time on Broad Street and beyond. We had a lot of fun. So good luck tomorrow night on the broadcast. Hopefully you can bring the Falcons home a win and get them into next week. Actually, and speaking of Noah, he and our good friend Mike Givler are going to be going on a podcast adventure themselves called Lebanon Leap. Real quick before we'll let you go, what kind of content can we expect out of that?
Yeah, you're going to expect a lot of high school sports coverage in Lebanon County. I feel like our high school athletes have been a bit underserved in a sense of not getting the coverage they deserve from some of these newspapers in the other part of the LL League. We won't mention what county that is. I think we all know what it is. But Mike and I are hoping to provide that spark and this recognition for athletes. Obviously, football season's wrapping up, but high school basketball for both boys and girls is right around the corner, so you can expect some content for that too. But Lebanon Leap will be out soon with a pilot, and hopefully you guys like that. You can find it pretty much anywhere, and we'll be sure to be posting about it as well. But thank you guys so much for having me. And
all right, yeah, we appreciate it. There he is, the pride of Sparrows Point, Maryland, Noah White. Everyone, we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Noah.
Thanks. We want to thank Noah for being on the pod with us this week. And we're switching over now to the Eagles and Chase. We've got the Birds with the bye week. I think coming at a perfect time. They looked, I think, as good as you could expect. I don't have any real complaints coming out of last week's game against the Giants, the 38-20 win. Saquon had his best game of the year. The offense looked pretty efficient. Even without A.J. Brown in the lineup. What are your thoughts? Were you impressed? Where do you still see some need for improvement? But Just what were your takeaways coming out of last Sunday's game?
I don't think there's any negatives that you could look at from that game. I mean, the Giants were, come on, Giants were pretty beat up coming into that football game. And then, of course, with the Scadaboo injury, they had a variety of other injuries in that football game.
Boy, that was gruesome,
man.
Wasn't it? Oh, man.
Did you see the still shot of that?
I did.
Oh, geez,
I felt so bad for him.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, best of luck to him. I mean, he is just a stud of a running back, and to see that happen to anybody on the field of play, I mean, obviously his season's done, but, obviously him and Jackson Dart are going to be the future there up in New York, and what a season he was having up until that point. It's just heartbreaking to see that happen to anybody. I don't think you can really say any negative things about the Eagles. You had that first run from Saquon Barkley on the first drive, 65 yards to the house, taking it there. Jalen Hurts played pretty good again. Pretty much perfect football from Jalen Hurts once again. Big game for Dallas Goedert again, and also for Devontae Smith. I mean, their offense looked good, but again, I mean, you can't really compare the two games of when they played New York up in New York. I mean, it was just a total disarray by Philadelphia in that ball game, and they just traded again, for the cornerback, right? That they just got from the Jets recently. So that's going to help them here when they take on the Packers on Monday Night Football. I mean, that's the next game after the bye week. Brandon Graham will be coming back that game too. So I mean, the Eagles should be fully loaded for that Packers game after this bye week.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple of holes that they need to address defensively. They need another corner, and they went out and got one. They got Michael Carter II from the Jets, trading John Mechie III. So I asked Chase Hopper the first, do you like that trade?
Yeah, there's definitely no two. There's definitely no two of me, man. Yeah, I mean, I like that trade. I mean, they didn't give much up. They gave away that wide receiver that hasn't really even seen any action yet.
No, he really hasn't.
Couple of picks there too, but I mean, you gotta like it. Anytime you can get some depth in the secondary there and on the defensive line, you gotta love it. And like I said, I mean, you mentioned it, man. The bye week is coming at the perfect time, and once they revamp here and hopefully Saquon is healthy going into that Packers game, that's gonna be a huge game, man. Packers against the Eagles in Lambeau Field. Monday Night Football. It's going to be a pretty epic showdown, and anytime those Philadelphia Eagles wear our Kelly Green unis, man, they are full steam. They are full steam ahead, man. They need to add that uniform into the rotation like every other week, I think.
From your lips to Jeffrey Lurie's ears, I totally agree with you. But yeah, coming out of the bye, I think it's the Packers, the Lions, and then at Dallas. So definitely a key stretch there. I noticed a lot of the talk has been, offensively last week. Jalen Hurts was under center a lot more. I think which helped keep the Giants maybe on their toes a little bit. Maybe the offense was getting a little too predictable with Jalen Hurts in the shotgun constantly. We'll see if that sticks around here after coming out of the bye when they take on Green Bay. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, you're right. You talked about Brandon Graham being worked back into the mix. Hopefully, Nolan Smith is back in the fold too. That he'll be ready to come back coming off the bye, and we'll see. Again, we'll see if this. If Michael Carter really helps them. I guess there's talk of if he pans out, they can maybe move him into the nickel corner spot and maybe play Cooper DeJean on the outside. But it certainly should give them a little more versatility and maybe hopefully cover up what's kind of maybe the biggest glaring weakness on the defense, with the exception of maybe lack of depth and on the pass rush.
Yeah. One thing too, man. Hey, the Eagles got to see Tank Bigsby, man, run that football.
Yeah, how about that?
Hopefully, he's a solid backup to Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. That looks like so. They've been working him in. They worked him a lot in, and they obviously Will Shipley. It looks like I guess AJ Dillon is kind of the odd man out. He's been inactive the past couple games.
Yeah, so I mean that's good news for the Eagles having two running backs break off 100+ yards, even though it's the New York Giants. I mean they still got it done. A big win for them, and the bye week's coming at the right time, man. Big game against the Packers for sure.
We touched on the Steelers a little bit when we were talking with Noah about the Ravens. They're coming off the loss last Sunday night against the Packers. It looked like they were in the game for a while. I thought Aaron Rodgers played pretty well, but then in the second half, like Micah Parsons kind of went up a level, and whatever struggles the Packers had, they seem to find their groove there. Jordan Love
What a
started,
game.
yeah, he really started to get into a rhythm. I forget how many he was it like 20 passes in a row he completed, and
Yeah.
they had Christian Watson back. So I think we've kind of talked about this every week with the Steelers. We're really not sure what to make of them. They've played reasonably well, but then other times they've had some games where they maybe really had a chance to take control of that division and they didn't. They had that stumble against Joe Flacco and the Bengals on Thursday night, and then of course they didn't play that great defensively. So much so they went out and they traded for Kyle Duggar, the safety from the Patriots, and we'll see if he can help provide maybe shore some things up defensively. But and now they got the Colts, who are 7-1 coming up. So what looked like a chance for them to be in the driver's seat, all of a sudden now. You're not sure, with the Ravens getting Lamar Jackson back, all of a sudden, is Baltimore nipping at their heels a little bit?
Right, and I mean, you look at Pittsburgh too in that game against Green Bay. He scored 9 points in the second half. That was it. That was all they scored in that second half of the Green Bay and Pittsburgh game. I think it was Green Bay that scored 21 in the fourth quarter alone in that game. They definitely need some defensive help in that game. I mean, you're going to face Daniel Jones now, who has been lighting up the. Who would have thought Daniel Jones would have been lighting it up in Indianapolis? But he is. And what they have done there, they're 7-1 right now. It's going to be a tough game for the Pittsburgh Steelers to take on the Indianapolis Colts and get a win against the Colts. But they got to shore up that defense in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Daniel Jones has really resurrected his career. He and Shane Steichen, former offensive coordinator of the Eagles, have gelled well together. He's really responded to the system that they're implementing there in Indianapolis. It's it's interesting because he was pretty much written off after leaving the Giants.
Yeah, sure. And they got that stud running back, Jonathan Taylor. He had well over 100 yards, I think, last week with 2 touchdowns, and they got a good roster.
Yeah, this is the best. I think this is the best that Jonathan Taylor has ever looked. I think he's healthy for the first time in a couple of years, and it's really starting to show. Moving on to Penn State, Chase. So we've got the Nittany Lions headed to Columbus on Saturday afternoon, a noon kickoff against Ohio State. So the spread is
the big game on Fox this week.
It is the big game. I guess Penn State and Ohio State is I think they make this stuff before the season starts.
Yeah.
And this was ticketed as a big clash. The last spread I saw had Ohio State as a 20.5-point favorite, which I believe is got to be one of the largest spreads between the two teams, certainly pre-James Franklin. Does Penn State have
any? You're going to ask me, aren't you? You're going to ask me.
Okay.
I'm waiting.
Do they have any chance in this game? Do they have any prayer whatsoever?
I don't think so. Yeah, here's what's going to happen, JT. You know what's going to happen tomorrow? I've heard all the Penn State practices have been closed this week. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow on Friday, before the Ohio State game, Penn State is going to announce Urban Meyer as the head football coach at Penn State University right before the Ohio State game. Take over on Saturday. Ohio State fans are going to be in a tizzy. I'm just kidding. That ain't going to happen. But I don't see Penn State have any chance in this football. Like I said, I'm sticking to my gun and saying Penn State is not going to win another football game this year. I don't see anything different 2 weeks ago, but I don't see them winning another football game.
Okay, so I think we're both in agreement that they will not win the football game. But if you're a betting man, would you bet Penn State? Can Penn State cover that 20.5-point spread?
Whew. Man, with that offense from Ohio State, their defense is pretty stout as well. I don't see Penn State gaining probably more than 200 total yards of offense in that football game against Ohio State, but I'm going to go with no.
What do you think of like a 28-10 loss? That would cover.
That would cover, but I don't think it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm trying to talk you into it. I'm not having much success.
It's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
I'm still going to enjoy that smash burger on you. It's just not going to happen. I see Ohio State putting well over 40 points on the board, and I mean it could be over in the first half. It could be over by half.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you that Rutgers game. I'm gonna cash in with the win over Rutgers. I keep telling you. You were talking earlier about Urban Meyer. I guess that's one of the hot coaching rumors right now. That so here's one theory that I've seen out there on social media, because there's photos of Urban Meyer. I guess he was in PA and he met a couple of times with one of the Pennsylvania senators, Dave McCormick, one of our U.S. senators, and the rumor is
didn't he
that
meet with Bradley too? He met with Bradley, didn't he?
I think so, but so the rumor is that Urban Meyer would take over as head coach, that they would bring in Urban Meyer along with another guy that's being rumored for the Penn State job, Brian Hartline, the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. And that basically the Urban Meyer would be the coach, Brian Hartline would come on as the offensive coordinator, and that Brian Hartline would then be the guy that would succeed Urban Meyer. So that Urban wouldn't be coming in long term. He would just be the face, and that this is all being groomed for Brian Hartline to transition into being the head coach. Do you think that rumor has any legs, and do you think we could see something like that for next season?
Well, you just saw that Matt Rule is obviously out of the coaching lineup for them. Also, the coach from Indiana, he just signed a big deal with Indiana as well. So he's there long term. Both those guys now signed long term. So Matt Rule is not going to be your next head coach of Penn State University. I mean, who else is out there? They got to get a big name coach. They've been trying to get Urban Meyer for years. They've been trying to get him for a long time now. I think it's going to be Urban Meyer at some point in time. But I said, I'll tell you what, man, if they can do that tomorrow and announce Urban Meyer, just imagine the Ohio State fans and the frenzy it would put in them right before the Penn State-Ohio State game at the Shoe in Columbus. Just imagine that.
Coach U. How about Coach U coming to Happy Valley? You'd love to see it.
Could you imagine him wearing blue and coming out of the Ohio State tunnel on Saturday for the Penn State Nittany Lions?
Well, it wouldn't happen this Saturday. It's not going to happen until I don't think it
did.
Oh yeah. There's some other names out there. I've heard of Joe Brady. I've heard of the guy over. Can't remember his name, but the head coach at Ohio State, the coach at Missouri, is a possible candidate. So there's other names. I've even heard maybe a dark horse candidate. I think his name's Alex Gosh. He's the head coach at South Florida. He's done some pretty good things with that program. Had them ranked, although they did lose last week to Memphis. I think that was their second loss of the season because they lost to Miami. So we'll see. Okay. And I guess I'm seeing some rumors. I don't know if there's anything to them that a James Franklin to Virginia Tech rumors are starting to heat up as well. So big game, James and Blacksburg. What would you think of that?
If they're fine with just winning and having a winning record, like I said before, if they're fine with having a winning record, they ain't going to win a national championship with them. But they're one of those schools that are out there that need a big-time coach and need somebody that will win some football games, not the big football games, but win some football games for them, have a winning record. Say, James Franklin's your guy.
You know, I saw a pretty funny post. I don't know if you've ever read Crossing Broad. They're one of my favorite Philly sports sites to go to, and they had an article about that Penn State prematurely fired James Franklin because
I saw that today.
Did you see that after this year Penn State does not play Ohio State until 2028?
Is that what it is? That's unbelievable.
That's
unbelievable. Penn State's schedule next year it's a cakewalk to start off. So whoever the next head football coach is, I mean, he's going to walk in there and could have an undefeated season next year. I mean, they play nobody next year.
Well, they got Michigan, but there's no Oregon, there's no Ohio State. They do have USC, Wisconsin, and I forget who their non-conference games are. Marshall.
It's terrible.
I should have had this ready to go. This is my bad. I'm totally unprepared. and I wouldn't be surprised if I get fired from this podcast for being this unprepared. But I'm going to look this up as
we'll let you get through this show, though, at least.
Oh, I got to finish out the show.
Yeah, you got to finish out the show.
Oh, I got it. I got it.
The first 3-4 games are terrible.
Here we go. Marshall, at Temple, Buffalo, at Maryland, at Michigan, at Northwestern. So a lot for once, a lot of away games to start the year. Usually Penn State is loaded up with home games. Then they've got, I can't believe this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games at home. Maybe it's not going to be in this order, but they'll have Minnesota, Purdue, Rutgers, USC, Wisconsin, and then they'll be at Washington. So, I mean, you would think maybe a favorable schedule, but again, who knows what Penn State's roster is going to look like.
They'll be the preseason number 1 again next year.
Preseason number 1. Let's do it. Hang the banner up in Happy Valley, right?
Here's one thing that they did say, though. I mean, if Urban Meyer would become the next football coach at Penn State, I mean, they did say that sometimes you got to dance with the devil, man. If you want those winning seasons, you want to win those big games, then you got to dance with the devil sometimes. And Urban Meyer would be that devil to bring aboard to Penn State University. So we'll see if it happens.
He's the devil, I guess. Is that what you're trying to say?
Pretty much. He's not a good analyst, so he's got to do something.
Yeah, and he's not a good NFL head coach either. He showed that as well. But switching gears, I'm going to go a little out of order than what the rundown is. But I wanted to just kind of touch on the World Series. I don't know. Have you been keeping up much with it? You had that epic 18-inning game on Monday night that put the Dodgers up ahead in the series, but the Blue Jays have really just kind of shaken off that tough loss and just took care of business in games 4 and 5, winning 6-2 in game 4 and 6-1 last night and Wednesday night. So they take a 3-2 lead back to Toronto. Your thoughts on kind of what you've seen so far in the World Series? It looks like Toronto could be closing in on their first World Series in 32 years.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow night they're going to have the Game 6 clincher maybe tomorrow in Toronto, just like in, 93 when they played our Phils. They could clinch it in Toronto up there in Canada. But I tell you, I mean, I wasn't interested in the series prior to Game 1, Game 2. I mean, I had no interest in the World Series. But I tell you what, I've been watching Games 3 on, and it's been a pretty fun series to watch, to be honest with you. I mean, Toronto's got a young team that just never dies. They got a couple guys, that Addison Barger, who is just an absolute monster. Last night, I think he was, 2 for 3. He's batting well over 300 in the postseason. Ernie Clement for Toronto as well. He's batting close to 400 in the postseason.
Yeah, I love
it. I'll tell you what, man. They have a lineup that just does not quit. They could be down 10-0, and they're still going to be fighting and clawing their way back. And you're seeing it right now. LA, their offense has kind of sputtered here the past 2 games. Not doing a whole lot. They're pitching so-so. I mean, they struck out 15 times last night, the Dodgers, in that ball game. So their offense needs to do something real quick. But I mean, even Ohtani, I mean, he hasn't had the best postseason by any stretch. I mean, he had that one game where he pitched and hit, had the stellar game there, and then just had the one in the World Series. But besides that, Shohei Ohtani has not done a whole lot for the Los Angeles Dodgers in the postseason.
He's heated up a little bit more, I would say, in the NLCS, and definitely in the World Series he's played better. He really struggled against the Phillies in the LDS, but we'll see what happens. I really love the way Toronto. I love their approach at the plate. They don't try to do too much. They all try to put the ball in play. There's not a lot of consistent strikeouts in that lineup.
Right.
And Vlad Guerrero, he's just one of those guys that strikes fear in you. I don't know. Maybe if they win it, he could be a candidate to win World Series MVP. We'll see what happens. And of course, last night they got a great performance out of that Trey Savage from he's from Pottstown, the pride of Boyertown High School, and I think he struck out 12. Now that being said, the Dodgers do have Yamamoto going in Game 6, and he's been stellar. He's got back-to-back complete games. So again, I would not be shocked with Yamamoto on the mound if they could possibly force a Game 7. But then, who's left? I guess they would go to Glass now if there would be a Game 7. Because Ohtani just pitched, Blake Snell just pitched. So We'll see, but you're right. That Toronto lineup is just from 1 through 9. They are just relentless. Even the bottom of the order can do some damage. They can rake too. It's not just the guys up top.
Yeah, that's way Barger and Clement, man. I'll tell you what, those two guys
Yeah.
are really hitting well at that bottom of that lineup, and it's like you said, they have guys that are playing small ball, which we'd love to see in Philadelphia. Who knows if we'll ever see that, but I mean, they're playing small ball up there in Toronto. They're playing the right way, and those guys just don't quit, and they have the desire, all the heart in the world to win this World Series this year, and those guys have been on a tear here the past couple of games.
Let's touch on a little bit of hockey here as we make a little transition here. I tell you what, it warmed my heart Monday night. Flyers Penguins. That felt like an old school
Oh,
Flyers
goodness
Penguins
gracious.
game.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. It was a big rivalry. It was I guess it was part of that. So once a year, ESPN does this thing called the Frozen Frenzy. It's on a Tuesday night where all 32 teams are in action. And so there's 16 games, and they stagger the start times by like 15 minutes apart. And then between ESPN and ESPN Plus and ESPN2, they air all of these games, or they stream all these games. So the first one to kick off the night was a 6 o'clock face-off, Flyers Penguins, and man, that game had everything. It had really good goaltending. There was a lot of rough stuff. There was a big scrum at the end of the overtime period. You had the Flyers score in overtime, have a goal disallowed. You had the Penguins score, but that was waved off because they were getting ready to go on a power play, and Malkin came on before the goalie had a chance to get off. And then the Flyers end up winning in a shootout. I don't know if you got a chance to read much or if you got a chance to see any of that game, but man, it was a great win for the Flyers, and it would be great to see that kind of a rivalry rekindled this year between the Flyers and Penguins.
Tell you what, I couldn't keep track of what was going on Tuesday night with all those hockey games that were on. Vegas was over on ESPN on my app, so I was trying to switch back between Vegas, then the Flyers Penguins game, then the World Series was on. I just couldn't keep track of all my sports on Tuesday night. But that Flyers Penguins game, it's like you mentioned, man, that game was back and forth the whole entire game. It was reminiscent of years past of Flyers Penguins, that rivalry. Flyers are doing pretty good things at home, not so much on the road this year. Zegras again with another assist, 2 goals, including that the power play that was against the Islanders earlier in the week. But that game against the Penguins, I'll tell you what, it had a whole lot of good stuff in that hockey game, and the Flyers are 5-3-1. I mean, taking it to the Penguins is pretty good stuff for the Philadelphia Flyers, especially at home. Crosby, scored his 8th goal. That was, like you said, the wild times in the overtime when it ended with that melee as well.
That was pretty exciting.
The Flyers got some grit this year. I'll tell you what, with all those young guys that they got on that team, they still got some grit, and they're starting to show it. Rick Tockett's got them going the right direction there in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they definitely have a little bit of an edge to them. They have benefited, I think. They played a lot of tough teams, but I think they've benefited from having a lot of games at home. They haven't done as well on the road. In fact, I'm not even sure that they've won on the road yet. They haven't had many road games. They had the opening night loss. They lost in Florida. They had a loss in Carolina in overtime, and they had a loss up in Ottawa. I think that might be it. I think they may have only played 3 road games because they're at home again.
0-2-1 on the road. 0-2-1 on the road. Yep.
Yeah, and in fact, as we record this, coming up tonight, they're at home against the Predators. So we'll see if they can keep it going at home. Penguins, of course, have been off to a terrific start. I think that was only their 3rd loss in regulation, and they're at home tonight against the Minnesota Wild. Caps, we've talked about them at length as well on a couple of past podcasts. They've cooled off a little bit lately, having lost their last 2. They had that loss over the weekend, 7-1 against Ottawa, and then on during the frenzy they lost to Dallas. I think it was 1-0. It looks like some injuries are starting to hit them as well. I know they put Rasmus Sandin, one of their big defensemen. He's been placed on injured reserve. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but I mean, there's a guy that's logging 20+ minutes a night. Dylan Strome just went on the injured list as well. He got injured, and of course, we all know that's going to affect the Bears as well. In fact, I saw that Ethan Frank was sent back down to Hershey because the Caps had activated Pierre-Luc Dubois, but now I believe Ethan Frank is back up with Washington again, like that quickly. I think
he took a pretty big hit late in that game with just under 2 minutes left. It was a pretty nasty reverse hit from Mikko Rantanen in that game, and he left the game. And I didn't hear his injury report, but apparently
talking about Ethan Frank.
Yeah, he took a pretty big hit with less than 2 minutes to go in that game, and for the most part, I think for the Washington Capitals right now, Logan Thompson is keeping them in those hockey games right now, especially the past 2 games. He came up big in that last game against Dallas, but like you said, losing their second straight, there wasn't much action on net for the Washington Capitals. As I forget how many shots on goal they had. It wasn't very many in that game against Dallas at all. But to lose 1-0, I mean, they're kind of looking for some help with all the injuries that they've had. Dylan Strome getting hurt, but Ovechkin's playing okay. But you can't count on Ovechkin every single night in and night out. And McMichael, some of those big name guys, Carlson's got to start stepping up a little bit too. Wilson as well. Wilson's played okay, but not up to his best performance as of yet in the early hockey season.
To answer your question, Ethan Frank was not in the lineup against Dallas. He's listed as day-to-day, but you were talking about Logan Thompson. He actually, right now, he leads the NHL in goals against average at 1.44.
He's having a heck of a year.
He also leads the NHL in save percentage among goalies with a .939 save percentage. I can't believe this. Do you know who's number 2 in save percentage and goals against in the NHL among goalies?
Right now?
Yeah.
Yes. League-wide?
League-wide.
Goalie-wise? I couldn't even take a guess on that right now.
Dan Vladar of the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, wow.
That's hard to believe.
Yeah, not surprising.
I mean, he's been great. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Hershey Bears, I think they might be gaining a little bit of momentum here. They had the split this past weekend against Lehigh Valley, and they started a little bit of a road swing now last night with a win in Bridgeport against the Islanders. And I don't know what to think of them yet. They're pretty young. They're not very big, but they have a lot of speed and they have a lot of skill. I was looking at the lineup last night. If you count the goalie, I think it was Bjorklund got the start last night. There were 10 guys in that lineup that are draft picks of the Washington Capitals. And one of those guys, Andrew Cristall, who just scored his first pro goal over the weekend, he was not in the lineup. So we've talked about this before. It's definitely a lot of new faces, but Derek King seems to be pretty high on this group, and he thinks they have a lot of upside.
Yeah, and the Bears they had 2 solid games there. The Friday night game and Lehigh Valley, they only lost, 5-4. Graham Clark had a pretty good game once again. Friday night game was probably their first time all season long that they played a solid 60-minute hockey game, and then Saturday coming out back in Hershey, winning that one as well. Matt Strome with the goal, Chris Tell with the goal as well. Spencer Smallman, he got a goal in that game too. But 2 solid games for the Hershey Bears, and then last night against the Islanders, another big effort. I mean, they scored 2 goals with under in 2 minutes apart, I believe, in that game last night. Rubinski's having a heck of a year. That Cal Rosin, he had his 6th assist, I believe, last night too, in that game. And they're playing good hockey here the past 3 games, and I think they're finally getting that gel. That's what we talked about earlier in the podcast of the team gelling, the team meshing, and I think they're finally getting to that point, and it showed the past 3 games here.
Yeah, I think Rosin was definitely a good pickup for them. He had a really good year last year. He was, he was like a plus 24, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, a plus 22, and he logged a lot of minutes. Actually, he had 10 goals and 24 assists last year for Colorado, so that was a good pickup. And I think Graham Clark has proved to be a pretty good pickup. You were mentioning him earlier. I think he was had 16 goals last year for Iowa, and what does he have, like 4 goals or something? So, we talked about that they're a pretty young team. They're going with a lot of their their prospects, but they've supplemented nicely, I think, with Rosen and Graham Clark. So we'll see if they can keep the momentum going. They got a game Friday night. I believe they're in Springfield.
Yeah,
It'll be the third time. Yeah, they'll be the third time they've played Springfield already this season. And then Saturday, they're in Providence, who is really good. In fact, they beat Wilkes-Barre Scranton on Wednesday night, and both of those teams are undefeated. So we'll see. We'll see how the Bears look coming out of this 3-game road trip before they head back to Giants Center. And you can catch all the Bears action on Froggy Valley 100.1 and streaming at myfroggyvalley.com and on the My Froggy Valley app.
Yeah,
we're going to wrap this.
We're not going to give them the Calder Cup yet, man. But they're going to go through these rough stretches here.
Definitely
early in the season. But the past 3 games, they've been playing some pretty solid hockey for the Chocolate and White.
We're going to wrap up the podcast with a quick look at we're going to do a little Sixers talk here, Chase. The 76ers, who I kind of criticized here going into the season because I really didn't know what to expect. And boy, have I been pleasantly surprised. This rookie, VJ Edgecombe, is just what a breath of fresh air. Him and Tyrese Maxey in this backcourt. I mean, this is about as dynamic as it gets. I mean, they've got some holes defensively, and Joel Embiid's on a minutes restriction, but they're playing hard. They don't give up. They've overcome some double-digit deficits in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. The other night they got the win over Charlotte, and then the next night they came back and beat the Wizards. But if nothing else, they're at least interesting and exciting to watch. I don't know how long they can keep it going, but they've piqued my interest at least.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I wish my screen was. You'd be able to see me. I'm wearing the Tyrese Maxey hooded sweatshirt today.
Man.
The edition for this. I mean, he's the leading point scorer right now in the NBA. I mean, all he's done is scored 40 points on that opener against the Celtics. He's been scoring at a rapid pace here these first 4 games. I mean, all the Sixers have done is become 4-0. They've come back. They're scoring almost 140 points in an NBA game. I mean, it's absolutely crazy of what they've done. Kelly Oubre, he's been solid for the Philadelphia 76ers.
This is the best he's looked.
He looks good.
He really. I think he's completely healthy, and the talk is what happens. I guess Jared McCain's going to be back pretty soon, and Paul George will be back eventually. And where do those two guys fit into the rotation that they have going right now? It's again, I don't know. I can't really project what kind of team they're going to have, but I think that it's at least they're at least exciting to watch. And at this point, I can't ask for anything more than that.
Tyrese Maxey, man, he's averaging 37.5 points per game. VJ Edgecombe, 22.2 points per game. They're getting even help from the guys that you would have never even guessed, like Quentin Grimes. He's contributing to it. Even Andre Drummond, he's picking up the slack on the rebound side of things. Dominic Barlow, I mean, these are guys that you didn't see producing last year for the Sixers at all.
Right.
And some of these guys are now producing this year, man, and it showed in that third period alone of the points that they scored in that last game. I mean, they just took it to them in that fourth quarter, and you saw they scored 32 points in that fourth quarter alone against the Wizards on Tuesday night. And for what they've done in their first 4 games, I mean, they are heading in the right direction right now.
Yeah, we'll see if they can keep it going. They got the Celtics this weekend, and I think they got the Bulls coming up. The Bulls are off to a pretty good start. But, again, we'll see. Hopefully more exciting things as we move through
the NBA Cup on Friday night. NBA Cup. Why do they do that, JT? Why?
I don't know. It's very prestigious, isn't it? Nobody cares about it. Nobody cares.
That's not what the commercial says. Everybody wants that cup, they say, in that commercial. See that commercial?
Is that what they Yeah, I did. Is that what they say, huh?
Yes.
Everybody wants the cup.
Everybody wants that NBA Cup. Prestigious.
Yes, more than nobody. Everybody wants the NBA Cup. No one wants an NBA championship. Am I right? It's all about. Yeah, it's all about the NBA Cup.
Really?
Well, we've reached the end of the road, my friend. It's been another. It's been fun again. Another edition of Broad Street and Beyond. It was good to have Noah on to talk a little local sports, and again, I think we'll definitely have him on again. This podcast that you and I are doing, it's going to evolve. We're gonna try to evolve it. We're gonna try to add some more bells and whistles as we go here. So if you're new to this podcast, subscribe, like it, share it, get the word out. We're trying to build this thing and hopefully even better things ahead. And we'll see what's in store here for Broad Street and beyond.
Yeah, word of mouth is definitely helping, and we're building the subscribers on a daily basis. So don't forget to check out our podcast with Derek Fisher, man, the World Series champ. Great sit-down interview with him, and hopefully next week I'll be away from Camp David here, so you'll actually have some visuals there. But we'll see, man.
Yes, we promise our viewers and our listeners that Chase will be out of witness protection next week.
That's right.
And he will be out of his super secret location. So until next week, for Chase, I'm JT, and we'll talk to you next week on Broad Street and beyond.